Hello and welcome back to 64 Squares Official. Today we are going back to the 36th Chess Olympiad in Calvia, Spain, 2004 for a fascinating encounter between two legendary names in women's chess, Susan Polgar and Maia Chiburdanidze. Susan is one of the most famous chess sisters in history and the first woman to earn the Grandmaster title through the traditional open qualification route. Polgar was renowned for her tactical vision, aggressive style, and incredible attacking ability. And facing her is Maia Chiburdanidze, one of the greatest women players of her generation. Maia became women's world champion at just 17 years old in 1978 and held the title for more than a decade. So this is not just another Olympiad game, it's a clash between two generations of women's chess excellence. And what makes this game particularly memorable is that Polgar unleashes a spectacular tactical sequence in the middle game. So now let's get into the game. Knight to f3 and knight to f6. Polgar begins with knight to f3, keeping her options open. Maia answers with knight to f6, developing naturally and contesting the center. Now c4 and e6. Polgar plays c4, immediately putting pressure on the central squares. Black responds with e6, preparing to develop the bishop and potentially strike the center. Now knight to c3 and bishop to b4. Develops another piece, black pinning the knight and developing with tempo. Now queen to c2 and kingside castling. Polgar plays queen to c2, supporting the center and keeping an eye on the king side. Black castles with kingside castling. Both sides have completed their basic development, but Polgar has something more ambitious in mind. Now a3, attacking the bishop. Now bishop takes c3 and queen takes c3. Polgar immediately asks the bishop a question with a3. Black chooses bishop takes c3, giving up the bishop for the knight. And c5, the position is still relatively balanced, but Polgar is not interested in a quiet game. Now b4, attacking the pawn on c5. Here comes the first aggressive statement. Polgar starts expanding on the queen side and grabs space. Black responds with b6, preparing to develop the bishop to b7. Now bishop to b2 and d6. Polgar's bishop comes to b2, taking aim along the long diagonal. Black plays d6, reinforcing the center. Now g4. This is the kind of move that tells you exactly what sort of game Polgar wants. She's not slowly maneuvering, she's coming after the king. Black's knight is sitting on f6 and Polgar wants to drive it away. Now bishop to b7 and g5, attacking the knight. Now knight to h5. Black develops bishop to b7 and Polgar continues. The knight heads towards the edge of the board and now Polgar has created exactly the kind of unbalanced position she likes. Now rook to g1, a very strong attacking move. The rook comes to the g file, directly supporting the advanced g pawn. Polgar is essentially saying, I'm going to attack your king and I'm not giving you time to breathe. Now e5 and bishop to h3. Black tries to establish a strong center with e5. Polgar calmly plays a bishop to h3, keeping the bishop active and preparing to increase the pressure. Now knight to f4, attacking the bishop on h3. The knight jumps to f4. This looks active, but it also becomes part of Polgar's tactical calculations. Now bishop goes f5. Polgar moves the bishop to f5. Now the attacking pieces are beginning to coordinate beautifully. Black responds with g6, attacking the bishop. Maia tries to chase the bishop away, but Polgar has already calculated something much more dangerous. Now knight takes e5. Polgar grabs the pawn. At first glance, it looks dangerous because black can simply capture the knight, and that's exactly what happens. Now knight takes e2, attacking the queen on c3 and rook on g1, but black's knight takes on e2. Polgar continues with knight takes f7, counter-attacking the queen. Another sacrifice, the knight jumps to f7, attacking and creating enormous complications around the black king. Now black responds with knight takes c3. The other knight captures Polgar's queen on c3 and now the position looks absolutely crazy, but Polgar has seen deeper. Now knight takes h6 with a check. This is the point of combination. The knight jumps to h6 with check, forcing the black king into an awkward position. Now king to g7, attacking the knight. King moves to g7 and now Polgar brings another piece into the attack. Now bishop takes c3 with a check. Polgar eliminates the knight on c3 with check. This is crucial. She is not simply sacrificing pieces randomly. She is removing black's defenders while maintaining the initiative. Now rook to f6. Black tries to defend, but Polgar continues the assault. Now bishop takes f6 with a check, at the same time attacking the queen. The bishop takes the rook on f6, another check. Black now has to respond. Now queen takes f6, the queen captures the bishop, and now comes another brilliant tactical shot. G takes f6 with a check. The g pawn takes the queen, and that's the whole point of the combination. Polgar has sacrificed material, but she has ripped apart black's defensive structure and eliminated the queen. Now king takes h6. Black's king finally captures the dangerous knight on h6. The fireworks are over, but when the smoke clears, Polgar has emerged with a winning position. A bishop to e6 and knight to c6. Polgar does not let the momentum disappear. Bishop to e6 activates the knight. Black brings the knight to c6. Now bishop to d5 and rook to f8, attacking the pawn on f6. The bishop retreats to d5. Black activates the rook. Now f7. Now another dangerous pawn appears. That pawn is only one step away from promotion. Black has to deal with it. Now knight to d8, attacking the pawn on f7. The knight moves to d8, helping control the promotion square. Now bishop takes b7 and knight takes b7. Polgar removes black's bishop. Black's knight recaptures. Now rook to g3. Another beautiful rook move. Polgar brings the rook into the position and keeps her pieces active. Rook takes f7. Black finally eliminates the dangerous f-pawn. Now rook to e3 and knight to d8. Polgar centralizes the rook. Black's knight returns to d8. The tactical fireworks are gone, but Polgar still has the more active position. Now b5. Polgar creates another pass pawn threat. This is excellent practical chess. Even though the queens are gone, she continues to make black solve problems. Now rook to f4, attacking the pawn on c4. Black's rook becomes active. Now d3 and d5, putting more pressure on the c4 pawn. Both sides push their central pawns. Now rook to e7, attacking the pawn on a7. Polgar's rook penetrates the 7th rank. This is exactly where a rook wants to be. Now d takes c4 and d takes c4. The central pawns are exchanged. Now knight to f7 and rook to d1. Polgar brings the rook back to the d file. Black's knight heads towards the f7. Now knight to g5. The knight becomes active, but Polgar keeps creating threats. Rook takes h7. Polgar grabs a pawn. Her rook is becoming a major force on the 7th rank. Now rook takes c4. Black's rook grabs a pawn on c4. Now rook to a6, attacking the pawn on b6. Polgar keeps her rook active. Now rook to c2. Black's rook penetrates to the 2nd rank. Now rook takes b6. Another pawn falls. Polgar's rook is eating its way through black's position. Now c4. Black pushes the past c-pawn. This is black's main counterplay. Now a4. Polgar calmly pushes her own pawn. Now rook to a2, attacking the pawn. The black rook becomes active on the 2nd rank. Now rook to a6 comes in support. Now knight to f3 check, at the same time attacking the pawn on h2. Polgar's king is forced to react. Now king to f1, knight to d2 check, another check. The knight jumps to d2 with check, but Polgar has the answer. Now rook takes d2. The rook captures the knight and black recaptures. Now the rooks have exchanged, simplifying the position. Now rook to c6, attacking the pawn, and rook to c2. Polgar's remaining rook becomes active. Black's rook remain on c2. Now b6. And there it is, the final move. Polgar's pass pawn marches forward and black has no realistic way to stop everything. And it was in this position Maia resigned the game. Now let's take a look at the tactical heart of the game, and this is what makes the game so memorable. The critical sequence was knight takes e5 and knight takes e2, knight takes f7, knight takes c3, knight h6 check, king to g7, bishop takes c3 and rook to f6, bishop takes f6 with check and queen takes f6 and g takes f6 check. Polgar was not simply sacrificing pieces, she was forcing black's king into a tactical maze, removing defenders one after another and eventually winning the queen. That's the difference between a speculative sacrifice and a calculated combination. Polgar saw that the black king's position was vulnerable and she attacked it with incredible precision. So at the 2004 Calvia Olympiad, we witnessed a fascinating battle between two legends of women's chess. Susan Polgar brought aggression, tactical vision and attacking imagination. Meanwhile, Maia fought back with every resource available, but once Polgar's combination began with knight takes e5, the position exploded. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about this game is that the attack did not end with the tactical sequence. Polgar then converted her advantage with active rook play and dangerous pass pawns all the way to finish. And perhaps the most beautiful thing about this game is the attack did not end with the tactical sequence. Polgar then converted her advantage with active rook play and dangerous pass pawns all the way to the finish. A brilliant game from one of the great attacking players in chess history. If you enjoyed this game and want to see more classic chess battles, brilliant combinations and detailed move by move analysis, make sure to like the video and subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. So that's it for today. See you in the next one.